Right. Good morning to everybody joining me in the Central Time Zone or further west, and good afternoon to all of you East Coast and beyond folks. Welcome to today's webinar, Grow Your Own ECE, Catalyst for Recruitment. Excited to have you here. My name is Abby Coatman-Pedig, and I serve as the Research Director at the Center for the Study of Childcare Employment at the University of California, Berkeley, which is one of the core partners of the National Early Care and Education Workforce Center. Our mission at the National ECE Workforce Center is to support a diverse, qualified, and well-compensated early childhood education workforce. We believe, as I'm sure you do, that every child deserves access to high-quality early learning experiences. And that, of course, begins with supporting the educators who make those experiences possible. Our center uniquely develops its content in community with the field itself, with each activity area connected to the others and connected to the field. In the middle of this little diagram here, you can see what we have our research to practice area, which really cross-cuts the other three colorful areas there, and sits as a connector or a bridge to ensure that research, policy, and practice are all coordinated, that research activities happening within the center are translated into actionable information that can be used by our technical assistant staff and with a broader stakeholder audience, and that our technical assistance reflects research and also informs future research and investigation. So a good way to think about this research to practice spot, which is where my center does a lot of work, is that this activity area works closely with both ECE professionals and also the other folks in our center to really ensure that the National Center's research findings and recommendations are relevant, practical, and applicable to real-world settings. Now I have to do our funding disclaimer. Next slide, please. This center is funded by the Administration for Children and Families, and we need to be clear that the work of the center is its own and does not necessarily represent ACF's thoughts, opinions, or policies. We'd like to thank the various federal agencies that support the center's work, including the Preschool Development Grant B5, the Office of Head Start, the Office of Child Care, and the Office of Planning, Research, and Evaluation. On behalf of the center, we want to thank all of these agencies for their partnership so that we can bring opportunities like this webinar to the field. So our agenda for today is pretty straightforward. I'm going to provide an overview of Grow Your Own principles, and then I will pass the baton to Rochelle, who will lead a fantastic discussion on the ways in which Grow Your Own brings people into the field of ECE. We'll close out with some final thoughts and let you know what's next in this campaign and how you can stay engaged. Now for the most important note. All of you out there, I see about 256 of you, is what I can see on my screen. You all bring wisdom and curiosity and experience to this space. And we really invite and welcome you to share your questions, your observations, your words of encouragement to one another, and links to any helpful resources that you have by using the Zoom chat, which I see folks are already kind of popping in who they are and where they're from, so that's wonderful. You can also message the hosts or panelists directly, and Susan and Thelma can help direct your question, or you can feel free to share your message in the chat so that everybody can see it as well. Either way, we will make sure that any links to resources that you share are collected and included in our post-session materials that we will send out. And any questions or ideas that you have will either be integrated into today's discussion or will inform the next two webinars in this series or other offerings. So please, we welcome you to share your voice and your thoughts today. So once again, welcome. Again, I can see sort of the states popping in here, but I also just wanted to give you an overview of what we collected from your registration materials. It seems like many of you, this is your first time joining us in an event with the National ECE Workforce Center. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're welcoming folks from 46 states, DC, the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation, the Fond du Lac Tribe, the Gila River Indian Community, Puerto Rico, and Belize. So welcome. And from your registrations, we see that about 5% of you are already implementing a grow your own strategy. So if you are in that 5%, please give a shout in the chat and tell us where you're joining from and a little bit about your program. We're excited to know kind of what you're up to already. And whatever your knowledge level is about grow your own, we're really excited to learn together. We also learned from the registration questionnaire, next slide please, that there are many roles represented today, from systems leaders at various levels to early care and education professionals in a variety of settings, funders, advocates, higher education staff, technical assistance providers, and policymakers. So it's great to have such a diverse group of voices joining us. And finally, we know that you're joining us from across a range of different types of organizations. You can see those in the chart here. We're really thrilled to see such a great representation across all of these systems and spaces. And we are happy to have all of you. So you also had the chance during registration to submit some questions, and you did hundreds of them. In fact, we will not be sharing all of those on this slide, and we obviously won't be able to cover all of them in the panel, although we would love to have a 5-hour conversation with all of you. But some of the themes were, how do you even get started? What are best practices for recruitment? How do you sort of assess the feasibility in your local context? How do you figure out what fair compensation is? How do apprenticeships fit in, and so forth. So we will try to, we shared these with our Grow Your Own experts, and we'll try to address as many of them as possible. But as I mentioned, those that aren't able to be addressed may be addressed in the webinars next Wednesday and the following Wednesday, or in other materials or resources that we're able to offer. So today's webinar is part of the Center's campaign launch for Grow Your Own. And as many of you are probably very aware, it just so happens that this week is also the National Association for the Education of Young Children's Week of the Young Child. And today's theme happens to be Work Together Wednesday. I know I've been having fun with my preschooler, sending him in pajamas, or I think it was Hat Day today, so he wore a fun hat to celebrate the Week of the Young Child. So this theme could not be more appropriate for today's discussion, because all of these efforts that we're going to discuss today are based on strong partnerships and collaboration. We know and we hear that workforce issues are on many people's minds, and that solving these issues requires the efforts of many. Our objectives for this campaign are, first, to raise awareness and spark discussion and provide an understanding of grow your own approaches in the context of early childhood education. Next, to elevate the experiences both of individuals working to partner and develop grow your own initiatives, and also individuals who have already participated in or benefited from these efforts. And finally, to inspire you to engage with the Grow Your Own campaign this month by sharing your own Grow Your Own success stories, questions, ideas, things like that. We want to really keep the conversation going, and I invite you to participate in the campaign in whatever ways that you can. And before we end the webinar later on, we'll make sure to let you know how to do so. And now, please welcome today's moderator, a wonderful leader from the state of Louisiana, Rochelle Wilcox, who will kick off our panel introductions. Rochelle?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Abby. I am excited to kick off the panel discussions. Again, my name is Rochelle Wilcox. I am the CEO of Wilcox Academy of Early Learning, co-founder of For Providers by Providers, and the co-chair of Go For Louisiana, all in the great state of Louisiana. And I am excited to kick off the discussion with my fellow panelists today and dig into some of the questions that folks submitted. I also want to remind everyone on the webinar to use the chat and submit any other questions and that will help from our team. Well, I'm so sorry. to help from our team, we have Susan, Andrea, Sherry, and Thelma that will work to sort all of those things out. So let's start with some questions, engage our community. But before we do that, we're going to introduce the rest of the panel. I am going to kick it off to Pam.
Hi, I'm Pam Shaw. I am from the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area. We have a gorgeous day today, and I'm hoping my internet holds because I've been having issues with it. We started an apprentice program, a registered early educator apprentice program in 2015, and it has grown since then, as it says, over 500 people. And I'm really excited today to talk about the partnerships that we've created and all about the relationships that it takes to do this. So I will turn it back to Rochelle or onward to Colleen, actually.
Ja, Shay Colleen Bowman dasha jenne nasht ejnen shlin touching bushes chin totna stunne dasha che but atni dasha nulla dig what hours done in shlin to den asha provost at Navajo Technical University a Nalnish. I'd like to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to share what we know about how we learn as educators and how we have this beautiful point in time to actually influence the way that our children in Indigenous nations learn and grow. And I'm going to be sharing a lot of information with you. I'm one of the premier tribal college universities representatives and sharing the voice of the 37 other tribal colleges and universities that are part of the work that we do. Thank you.
Yes, so as you can see, we have some esteemed panelists today, and we are happy that you guys can be with us. So let's start with questions on, I'm sorry, guys. We're going to, every community is made up of talented individuals who want to make a difference. And so what we're going to start is about how our panelists started their apprenticeship programs. So own initiatives, Grow Your Own initiatives are designed to intentionally bring together talented and expertise from within your community. One of the hats that I wear for Provides by Providers, we just launched our early childhood teacher course, an AmeriCorps program to recruit people to ECE workforce. What I like to say is that we are in a workforce state of emergency in early care and education. It is not a crisis, it is a state of emergency. So what we did is we paired AmeriCorps volunteers with lead teachers and to work to provide significant training, coaching, and hands-on experiences that lead to child development associate credentials. And then in addition, after that, they'll also provide them with a scholarship. We know that talent exists within the current workforce and among individuals who may not have considered the career of ECE. Non-traditional people, parents, high school students, freshly graduated high school students, people who are just graduated college or looking to go into college. So when we talk about talent today, we're talking about the skills, knowledge, and expertise that individuals possess, and also their unique life experiences, cultural backgrounds, and connections within the communities they live and work. So each of you work with individuals who may not have thought ECE was a career, was the career for them. You get to see them thrive in their career. So first, I'd love to hear your thoughts on why Grow Your Own is a powerful approach and how it can help transform ECE landscape. I'll let you start, Dr. Bowman.
Thank you, Rochelle. My Grow Your Own experience has been rooted in this work that I do at Navajo Technical University. Our institution is founded, our mission, our vision, our philosophy are founded in Diné teachings and the Diné philosophies of learning and of life. And so part of that is we want to make sure that our students are gaining experience on who they are in their communities, how they teach. The tenets of all of those things that we know as Navajo people are incorporated into the classroom. The Indigenous learners are receiving that gift of who we are. And it's unlike any other time in history where we're able to do something like this. And we have tenets that guide us. We have words in Navajo that help determine the directions of our programs, and the Grow Your Own reaches back into our culture and our language, and we bring those words into the classroom to help shape and build programs. Nitsaha case is our thinking. How we do that, how do we think about this thing called growing your own? Nahat, how do we take that thinking and putting it into a plan to make sure that it's effective and that it's meaningful education delivery for our youngest scholars? Ina, how we take our thinking and our plans and we actually live them. We incorporate those into the classroom. And then Sihasin, how we reflect on what we thought, what we planned, what we did, and how do we get better at it. And we model that in the classroom with our youngest scholars, our parents. We incorporate teachings of our grandparents. We do a lot of reflection. How can we get better at what we're doing? And so the Grow Your Own is very important because we want our students to know that they have value. They are not a deficit. They have value, and we want to bring that into the classroom and make sure that we're changing that. And again, as you think about the ECE landscape and how it's transformed in the state of New Mexico, it's rapidly transforming. And they're looking at us to try to build this pathway for our students. And it's empowering to our communities. It's empowering to me as an educator to see this happening and to be able to live it. And I'm really thankful that we have that. And I want more people on our reservations to embrace that opportunity. It's here, it's now. We have a voice. Thank you.
Absolutely, I love it. It's here, it's now, we have a voice. Clearly, Dr. Bowman is saying, and Grow Your Own is echoing the content that matters. Culture matters. And I love to hear that. Before I ask the same question to you, Pam, I want to offer my congratulations on your recent retirement. Congratulations. Not there yet, but congratulations. So maybe you're especially reflective on your career and some of the things you've helped to build. What are your thoughts on the Grow Your Own as an approach that can help transform ECE landscape?
So, thank you. And I work a lot for a retired person because I'm still doing consulting work. But it's, I think, Dr. Bowman said it. It's now, it's our time. Early childhood is out there. And, if there was one side effect of COVID, it was the fact that people started listening and looking and worrying about, like, what am I going to do with my kids? And it may not have had the impact that we wanted to in terms of our communities and the communities that we serve, but it certainly has made a difference. And when I have this opportunity now to reflect on, 50 years in the field of early childhood, oh my God, I'm so old. Anyway, yeah, it's been like 50 years. This is probably the most impactful thing I've done has been these past 9 years. And let me tell you, I got a phone call right before the webinar started this morning from one of our apprentices who was calling to tell me that she's graduating and that she was in touch with the people at the BA program, and she's completing the application this week, and she's going to start the BA program in August. She is so grateful, so excited, and never thought she'd have this opportunity in her life. She came to this country 10 years ago, not speaking a word of English, and has since gotten her 12 units initially, her AA degree, and is finishing her AA and is working full time. And it's just, this is what makes the difference. It not only transforms communities, but it transforms individuals, and it's transformed those of us who get to work with these people every day. Because when you see people succeed, it means that their kids are doing better as well. And if our program is targeting primarily parents of young children, it's really important to see that happening, that 2-generation model, that it goes from generation to generation. We don't want to see the cyclical poverty. And just to mention, I've been the former director of a Head Start and state-funded childcare program for the last 22, 18 of those years. And, we serve 1,500 kids in 4 counties, and all of them are low income. We have over 150 people taking classes right now. So out of 500 employees, about 150 of them are taking classes. That says something. It says a lot about our value in education and what it means to the community. So
50 years where? I don't see it. I don't see it. Congratulations on that.
thank you.
But thank you both. So I'll say I'll stay with you, Pam. And you touched on this a little bit, but take us back to the beginning. You were in a unique position to be in a program leader at the YMCA and teaching in a community college at the same time. So you maybe understood the workforce issues more in a nuanced way. Tell us how you begin your program, how your program got started.
For us, we started with an early Head Start childcare partnership grant, and we started looking for infant toddler teachers, and there were none to be had. I mean, literally, we would advertise and 1 or 2 people would apply, and nobody had any of the qualifications. And then it was like, well, I don't want to work with babies. I don't want to change diapers. And, for me, like 18 months is like the best age in the world, 18 months and 2.5, and people hate that age. So we got a extra training grant, and we said, all right, let's put the word out there. Let's try and see if we have parents that are interested in doing this. Are there community members? We put a group of 20 parents together, and in 6 months, 6 months was a little crazy, they got their 12 units in early childhood. They worked in classrooms in the mornings. They were in classrooms. In the afternoon, they were taking college classes. Part of it for me was bringing the right people together at the same time and having those relationships with people to be able to call on them and say, we really need this class first because it's going to make a difference, and we need these people to get their 12 units. Typically, community colleges, at least those in California, do not offer, the infant toddler class as part of those initial 12 units. Well, if you're going to work with young kids, licensing in California requires you to have 3 units in infant toddler development. They needed those classes up front. And so we negotiated, we set it up. We had the classes at one of our sites so that people got childcare. We would feed them if we needed to, whatever they needed to do to be successful. The only thing we didn't do right off the bat was get them computers. And that was like a lesson learned really quickly because they were submitting papers on cell phones. So by the next semester, everybody had a laptop and technology training, and it's been a ride since then. Those 20 people have 2 of them have gotten master's degrees. Several of them have finished their BA degrees. Most of them have gone to work in higher level positions, some in other agencies. And they follow the Head Start theme is in, up, and out. When we talk about bringing parents in, raising them up, and then kicking them out and doing the thing in the community so they represent. And this is what we've done. And so it's, it hurts me sometimes when they leave, but on the other hand, they're all doing really good work in other places and taking this with them. They're taking the training, they're taking the philosophy, and they're taking the heart and spirit with them. And I think that's what's critical to make these programs successful. And one last comment about that. Having taught at the community colleges and being an administrator of a program at the same time teaching my staff gave me a completely different relationship and a view of the staff that I hadn't had before. And I really got to appreciate them differently, and they got to appreciate me differently. And that for me, it made a big difference. And it certainly made a difference in the relationships that I've had over the years as a result of being able to wear those multiple hats. It also gave me the understanding, and I can speak the community college language, and that made a difference.
Absolutely. So I totally understand that as our early learning center provider and in our AmeriCorps, our early childhood teacher corps. people are saying, oh, what are you teaching babies? I don't want to be in the infant class. And I'm like, the infant class is the best. That is where you're doing the most. I take my strongest teachers and put them in there. Those are all where all of those brain synapses are at its highest and most. So it is, you know, and then they love it, you know, so getting them into those classrooms and into those trainings are crucial. But I understand that you also went from small dollars to even getting like $1 million grant, you know, as well. So it matters because you had the data to prove it as well. So it means something. So thank you so much for that, Pam. As a follow-up, I know that this question probably is on people's minds. Where there are resources, or where are the resources or tools or guidance that you found particularly helpful as you navigate through the partnerships, particularly with higher ed? And, you know, the importance of the articulation agreement, credit transfers, and other collaboration efforts to support participants in educational journeys. So we're going to talk both of that to you, Dr. Bowman, as well. But Pam, can you go ahead and start?
So I think that getting everything that people need so they don't have to worry about it, that navigating multiple systems to get people what they need, even just to enroll in classes, you have to enroll in the college and then the department, and then which classes do you take? And even if you get guidance from somebody, we're having people take 10 and 12 years to get AA degrees. And sometimes they were repeating classes. And sometimes they take a class on one campus and another. The woman who called me this morning had finished on 4 different community college campuses before she landed on one college she could finish at. And that was only because she didn't know better and wasn't getting the direct guidance. And we were like, oh no, rein this in and figure this out. We want to make you, the goal is to get you done and to finish as well as possible. We meet with community college instructors before they take on our cohorts because we really want them to understand who it is that we're you know, serving. These are typically non-traditional learners. About half of our participants speak a language other than English. And if it were only Spanish, it would be easy, but it's Tigrinya and Arabic and Chinese and Vietnamese and Mongolian and multiple other languages. We're in a rich, diverse community, and our families reflect those languages. So we want people trained who speak all those languages. And so we try and find tutors who speak those languages, or graduates of the program come back and help us by tutoring and mentoring and coaching. We offer classes, I said earlier, in the community, like at childcare centers, so it's a safe and comfortable place. A lot of people are not comfortable with the community college system, with any college system. They barely made it out of high school, some didn't, and they are not comfortable in academia. And so the expectations for us are, we have to make this as easy as possible, as smooth as possible, and make it so that people get secure right off the bat. And people are getting A's and B's in classes. They've never done this before. They're engaged. And we look for instructors who look like our participants. That's really critical, that they reflect the languages and the diversity of our participants. So you can look at an instructor and say, I can do that. You know, that's not far off my path. I can be an instructor someday. She started like me as a parent in the program. Oh my God, you know, so yeah.
Absolutely. So I can relate. That is one of the things. I started as a family home provider, and then got my CDA, then went and got my associate's degree, then my bachelor. But it was because I saw other representation. There were people that was there to help and support me. There were other. There was a village. You know, there's a thing. There's a village that, you know, to support to help raise a child. I was the child. I needed help to get me where I needed to be, right? So with that being said, I want to know, what are the other support services that you guys give to your participants? You're on mute, Pam.
No, and I just want to say, and look at you now.
Yeah.
Look at you now. That's amazing.
Yes.
So you talked about having a community. All of our classes, or we try and make as much of them as possible, cohorted. So there's power in the group. And I can tell you, if there's an issue with an instructor, they don't go by themselves to talk to the instructor. There's like 3 or 4 of them that'll come and say, you know, she doesn't understand why we did this, or, you know, there's just power in the group. If somebody is slacking off, I don't need to come in. The success coordinator doesn't need to come in. Somebody doesn't need to come in. It's the group is going to get on that person and help them and figure out what they need. And if you don't ask for help, you don't get it. But so we try and make it as easy as possible and provide the supports all around them and make it easy. There's a success coordinator that's like, they do everything from be cheerleader to case manager to arrange tutoring, to make sure you have your books, to make sure you're enrolled in classes. They do soft skills training. They are the link to the other systems. So there's always somebody to talk to if you can't figure it out yourself. And then you don't have to figure it out yourself. That's the amazing thing. So the cohort, the success coordination, the other piece that's really critical is the coaching and mentoring. If you've got a mentor teacher who you develop a relationship with as an apprentice, you're going to stay in the field because you're watching like amazing talent at working with kids, and they develop these incredible relationships. Unfortunately, they never want to leave each other because they love working together, but it really makes a huge difference. The other supports that we provide are everything from, you know, mental health consultation to transportation to referrals for housing, which in the Bay Area has turned out to be a nightmare because of the cost of housing in our area, and there's so little subsidized housing available. And that's one of the things we see every year. We see students dropping out because they're homeless or they're, you know, they're not able to maintain their rents, and we try and get them subsidies for things like that too. But that's probably our biggest challenge these days, is the housing situation out here. But we see people, you know, living in shelters, taking classes. So it's pretty amazing what they're willing to do when you feel successful and you see that as your route out of poverty as well.
So I would like to say I love the word success coordinator instead of case manager or all of the things. You know, it's about the intentionality of it all. And we need that. So Pam, you've been on the hot seat for a while. I am going to turn it to Dr. Bowman, and I'm going to ask the same question. You know, what are those with your program? And we're going to dig deep into your program, but I want to ask the same question. So what are those wraparound services that you guys provide to make sure that all of your candidates are successful?
Thank you. I think it would be really good for me first to say that this process that we're going through, this transformation that we're going through, is not possible without the help of so many partners. The Navajo Nation, Navajo Technical University, even our sister college, Diné College, making sure that we have the support from Office of Head Start, the New Mexico Early Childhood Ed Department. I mean, there are so many people that are seeing what we're wanting and our vision of transforming education to make it meaningful for us. I would be remiss in not thanking them, because without their support, we can't do what we do. I think the critical piece of what we do is trying to make sure that our students understand they can do this. It is not rocket science. It is something that we know how to do. We know how to help our families grow. And our services that we offer, right now we have a boot camp. We have an Associate of Arts. We have a bachelor program. And we are looking at right now in the next year to work on our master's degree and also national accreditation. We do academic support for our students through academic coaching. We have a full-time academic coach who works with them. He's also bridged out his feelers there for supports in counseling, both mental health, which we do online, and then of course our traditional mental health through ceremony. If we have students who are struggling, you know, and they can't get the help through Western medicine, we refer them to our medicine people. We provide laptops on loan to them from our IT department. But you have to understand, on Navajo, access to the internet, our broadband accessibility is very limited. And so we cover that by providing them fuel cards. And they have fuel cards. And if they can't get to a site that, I mean, if they don't have internet, they can at least borrow a car, ask grandma, can you take me? Or auntie, uncle, you know, brother, take me. I have fuel, I have a card. And they can take that, put fuel in the car and get to a point where they can have access to the internet for a lot of their homework and their schoolwork. We also recognize that our students also come from poverty, very, very deep poverty. We provide them with fuel, food cards, grocery cards, where we're in a food desert. So, you know, our groceries we get from sometimes, some cases from the middle of the reservation, you end up having to drive 3 or 4 hours to get to a grocery store. So we recognize that, we provide that. We also do academic stipends. And this is what I'm really big on, letting these students know that they can do it. So the target is put out at midterm. We're going to pay for your tuition. We're going to pay for your books. We're going to pay for all your fees. Your job now is to do the work of a classroom. Whatever courses you're signed up for, you will get to midpoint with all the supports. We have tutoring, we have all kinds of things for you. But if you get to midpoint, we only pay for A's and B's. So that's your target. You get half of the stipend for that year. They get a certain amount for A's, certain amount for B's per credits hour. And then at the end, we say you did really well, or you're struggling. We need to refer you to some place to make sure that you get better, because you still have the final to navigate. And that's also tied to a stipend. And so for success for that, it's worked out because our students see that as their job now. I have to learn, I have to engage. And it's not just learning the theory. We also add on another layer to them. Teaching isn't just about what you learn in the classroom. It's about discovering and uncovering all the potential information that can help you grow as a professional. So we require them to do 5 independent professional development workshops. You go find out if it's something you want to learn about, if it's how to conduct a professional learning community. When I get into the Head Start Center and I'm in charge, how do I do that? If I'm struggling with a student who has a behavior issue, how do I do effective classroom management? How do I do an IEP or a family FISEP? How do I do that? How do I conduct myself? How do I have a parent-teacher conference? All of those kinds of things that typically we don't learn when we go through a program, or we go quickly over it and then you're expected to hit the ground running. We make sure that that's built into their program. In their participation, they're required to do that every semester. And then we want to make sure that we are getting them prepared for the world of work. We tell them we're also offering you financial literacy. You must understand the funding that you get has to support your school, has to support your family as you're along this pathway. And so you're going to get to there, but you're going to graduate and you're going to need to know how to manage yourselves. We all know as teachers, we don't make a lot of money. So how do I stretch these dollars? How do I be fiscally responsible? So we partner with our finance department's customer service rep for our accounts, and they do financial literacy for our students. We also make sure that we are connecting them to their roots as Navajo people. How did grandma and grandpa help teach young people? What are those stories? And you all have to remember that Native America has experienced the residential era. There's a lot of historical trauma, baggage that comes with that. And how do we get through that? How do we use that to help engage us to be better teachers than what maybe perhaps our grandparents and our parents experienced? How do we get back to that? So we embed a lot of the Indigenous knowledge into that. And I want to talk about our boot camps that we're launching. I'm so excited about it. Our first boot camp was planned as a residential boot camp. Year 1, when we got our funding, COVID happened, and within a week, we changed it to all online. This year, we're going to be able to do they're going to get not 12 foundational credit hours for the CDA equivalent. They're getting 15. Everyone who enrolls in a boot camp, and there's 3 different types, every student must go through the Dinesh Studies introductory course, and we're going to be talking in special topics about the educational journey in Indian country. What happened to us? How did we get here? Why is it important for us to change it and transform it to where it's meaningful education for us? And so they all will do that. And then they get to break out. We have sessions that are going to be in 4-week sessions for our dual credit high school students who want to become teachers. We know that there's a teacher shortage and we're going to all be retiring. Who's going to take our place? So we're planting the seed at the freshman level in high school and giving them through a 4-week program, their 15 hours to get them started towards their degree. Then we're going to do the foster grandparents. They're part of that group. The next one is our Navajo Head Start employees, those that are paraprofessionals, parents of students in Head Start, and they're going to have a longer time period. And then those who are interested in joining in this profession, this wonderful thing that we do to help build the nation. And we're making sure that we offer that as a weekend option. So we tried to figure out how best can we help ourselves? How can we grow this workforce that is so desperately needed? And looking at our Head Start and saying, how do we help each other? And we also branched out to helping the Zuni Pueblo. So we serve 2 Indian nations. And these partnerships are just opening doors for us. And we're using every possible resource to help our students become successful at the end. And those that don't navigate it and don't make it there, we hang on to them. We don't throw them away because they have a heart for that work. So what do we need to do? Because we know life happens. How do we help you to get to the next step? So that's kind of what we do in our work. And I'm so grateful for not only this time, but for the partners that have stepped up and said, here, we can help you with this. I'm even excited that we may even get our own teaching lab. So that's something that I'm looking forward to, through the state of New Mexico. So I think we're in a blessed time as Indigenous nations. So thank you.
Amazing. To all of the things. So for, again, to the partners that you started out with, we know that this is not 100% funded, right? So the fact is that you do need to, you do need people that's going to champion and be a partner and see that ECE. I always say that, there is no economy without early care and education, right? So there are people that we need, stakeholders that we don't always think about, that we need to make sure that are championing and putting their money where their priority should be. So we are always grateful for all of the partners. So I want to say that. But Dr. Bowman, to all of the things that are going on in your programming, it is so exciting to hear those things. I don't know how you remember all of those things from the top of your head, but kudos to you. What I will say, though, is that we did have a question, and it's just about, what supports do instructors have to help them continue to be responsive to the needs and experiences of the students? You talked about the cultural sensitivity and things like that, but what supports do they have in around that? And either one of you guys could answer, but I just want to know, that was in the chat.
I think one of the things that we have done at NTU is that we have embraced the learning styles of our faculty. We have looked at them and said, okay, this is what you bring to the table. And here is what we want you to add to your plate. We will provide you with the training. We will provide you with, many of our teachers who are here are not technologically savvy. The world has changed so fast, and we're running. And so we do the training for them through our online education committee. Our chairperson of that makes sure our faculty are in those classes to learn how to be effective in online delivery. We also make sure that we talk to our faculty about taking care of themselves. We know that they are, for NTU, we have few faculty and we treasure them. So we have to work with them and we have to figure out how to help them. If they're falling down, we need to make sure we're there to help carry them and lift them. So it's a lot of that dialogue between our faculty and administration. And so, providing them that. I know that our funding is going to be running out for this current program that I'm running through this grant, but we have supplemented through Kellogg, through Achieve the Dream, through American Indian Higher Education Consortium, through the AICF, all of those programs. Whenever there is a grant that is out there, we're already saying, how can we fit ourselves into this grant and how can we sustain that? And so we're really focused on that. And, it's a lot of hard work, but that's what it takes to make the difference. That's what we have to do. We have no other options. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to add anything, Pam?
Yeah, we currently work with 7 colleges, 5 community colleges and 2 four-year colleges. So we have a lot of, I want to use the word diversity, but that's not the right word. Every college in California has its own fiefdom and they do their own thing and have their own programs. They have to meet certain standards, but they're really independent of each other, including within college districts. So even if you're in the same district, 2 different campuses can have very different structures. One of the things we do is we assign the success coordinator to the instructors for the cohort that they're working with. So the college instructors have someone who's there. At first they thought, oh no, I don't need anybody in my classes and watching what I'm doing. And then it became, oh my God, where's the success coordinator? How are they, helping us to do this and to figure it out, especially if somebody's having an issue and not talking about it. The other thing that we've started doing is we're calling them our visioning sessions. And we bring all of our colleges and employers together quarterly and talk about stuff and talk about curriculum and talk about courses and talk about sequencing of courses and content of courses, because it does need to be different. And I know somebody asked in the chat, just translating things is not enough if you're looking at culture. And, Dr. Bowman clearly exemplifies that. And when we're dealing with so many colleges, I mean, yeah, translating classes into Spanish, using Spanish materials and textbooks and assignments in Spanish, it's like if you're just translating the same old into English, it's not going to work. And I think that that's clearly our goal, is to have it be culturally reflective and responsive, not just a translation of the old stuff. The other thing that we're looking at is, some of these theory classes, like that they have to take to get a degree, don't really help them in the workplace. And we're looking at how do we change the philosophy at the colleges to put the classes that people really need first. So when we're talking about working with children with special needs, behavior management, infant toddler development, cultural responsiveness, trauma-informed care, working in violence communities and situations, that's the stuff that they need to be able to handle to get into a classroom. Piaget is great, but there's just so much Piaget one can take in order to get a degree when it doesn't really, and I know people are sitting there rolling their eyes at me now, and she taught community college for 25 years. But it doesn't help them in the classroom on a day-to-day basis, unfortunately. And while, I had to pay my dues and go through all those classes as well, reflecting as an employer and an instructor, what they need is they're going to take with them hands-on to get in the classroom the next day. And if any class is going to do that, the people are going to be more engaged in it as well, and they're going to do better.
So Pam, I think you got a standing ovation in the
at least 3 people anyway.
In the chat. The fact is that real world experiences is what our teachers need. Yes, theory is great. We need the education background. We need all of those things. We need the why to what we're doing, but what we also need to make sure that our teachers are is relative. How do I handle a child that has challenging behaviors? What is going on in specifically if there are state things that you might need, there might be something that's specific to that state that we need. Like for us, class, we do, that is one of the things that we need to make sure that our teachers are aware of. So I want to say that we appreciate both of you guys for paying attention to what each your community needs and making sure that you guys jump head first into that community. Because what people often do is do things to the community instead of involving the community. And what you guys have done is say, you know what, we're going to co-create this with the community. We're going to see what the community needs and make sure we put this into practice. So kudos to you guys. And I think that's the part of Grow Your Own, is doing it in the community with the community. So we can't do it without funding. So I know we talked about funding a little bit. So I just want to kind of revisit that and see how you guys made this happen. What is important around getting funding sources? Can you talk about that?
For Navajo Technical University, we are always seeking out funding. I mean, tribal colleges and universities compete. There's 37 of us competing for this little piece of the pie. And so we start looking at other places. Who else can we partner with? Who else can see our vision, the things that we want to see happen? And just putting it out there. And a lot of people in every environment that I go to, I'm saying, this is what we need. You know, are you ready to jump on board with the TCU movement? Because this is real, it's happening, and it's going to be meaningful and impactful for the largest tribal nation. You know, so being able to be confident in asking, the worst they can say is, sorry, you're knocking at the wrong door, you know. And so, but you know, I think it's just being fearless and trying to fit your way into whatever funding opportunity is out there and convincing and selling that. So the funding part of it is very important. I think part of our challenge, though, is we need to find the faculty and the infrastructure. Maybe a lot of you don't know how it works in Indian country, but infrastructure will be the thing that prevents us from moving mountains. Because if you don't have a place to offer to a faculty member, you don't get the faculty member. If you don't have the salary that's competitive to outside the reservation, you don't get the faculty. So, you know, our program, we went ahead and filed with the Higher Learning Commission to have it online, except for the last two, your practicum and your student teaching. The last 2 semesters, you must be face-to-face. But the rest of it's online because of accessibility and being able to have faculty members who can come teach for us from other places and provide the theory. And I like what you were saying about the theory. It's, you know, it's important to know the theory. That's the foundation we all need to have. However, you need to be hitting the ground when you get into a center and there is nobody to go to say, hey, help me with this. You better be prepared for that. And that's what we're trying to grow our own to recognize. And it's really important to just be fearless in going after funding to continue your programs. Our university is really working hard. I'm advocating for them when budget hearings come up. I'm saying they are our largest number of enrollees. So we need to fund them to keep it growing. So thank you.
So I'll just jump in then. Somebody just put in the chat what I was going to say, which is parading your apprentices and your participants in front of the funders. That is how we get our money. That's how we keep our money. And that's how we will continue to get funding, I hope, because when you see the impact that it's made on people who never dreamed of going to college, first in their families to graduate high school and or college, it is such a gift and such an amazing, you know, story. And I can't get up there as like an old white lady and say, give me money. You know, I can write all the grants behind the scenes, but the reality is like my story is, you know, one of privilege. And I recognize that. And so if I have a skill in writing a grant, I'm going to do that to support this program. We beg, we grovel, we take from any source we can to get the funding. I think we've been blessed over and over and over again where we have a steady source of funds. We're using money that nobody thought could be used for cohort groups. It's usually for individual. We've got some CalWORKs, which are TANF dollars that we're using to fund a cohort. And in the past, they just said, you know, no, it's for individual people, but we figured out how to make it work for a cohort group and it's working. And that's one of our primary sources of funding right now. We have foundations that are funding us. And, you know, we're gifted by having Head Start and state funding that allows to pay for training. So we can pay like staff salaries out of that. Our state rates went up. This is in California so much in the last couple of years. Thank you, Governor. And I know there's a bunch of California people on there, Department of Social Services, Department of Ed. Because the rates went up, we're able to pay salaries that are somewhat competitive with school districts now. And that is a huge, huge change for us. Some of our salaries went up as much as $8 an hour. For people who are just going from their 12 units, from nothing to 12 units, they're going to get an increase of $8 an hour. And when we're talking Bay Area, fast food people are now making $20 an hour. So I know this is not like the rest of the country, you know, in terms of salaries, but for California, in order to live here, you need to make like $40, $50 an hour in order to afford the housing. So, yeah, we beg, borrow, grovel, and, you know, no, we don't steal it. We do everything legally, but we also have partners and people who believe in the program and in the work that we're doing. But like I said, it's the participants themselves who really generate the funds and who really make it what it is. And, you know, I want to say it's sort of like Queen for a Day, but, you know, many of you are not old enough to remember that.
So I just want to, we keep talking about the participants and things like that. How do you recruit? That, you know, people do not, everyone does not say, you know what, I dream of being an early education teacher. I dream of still being able to get the same benefits that take the same benefits because of low wages. How do you recruit when there's sometimes negative connotation of being an early care and education teacher? How do you recruit? Let's talk about it.
Well, you know, for Native Americans, for the Navajos, I think it's challenging because we come from a place where there was the boarding school era and all of the horrific experiences in education that happened to us, to our parents, to our grandparents. And so that historical trauma continues to grow. I mean, it's never really put to rest. We need to convince the potential future educators, early childhood educators, that education can be a welcoming space for them and that it is a place for them and that it also includes the spirit and the indigenous knowledge that they bring with them, and being able to tell them that you don't have to check yourself at the door any longer. You bring your language, you bring your culture, you bring you, we see you. Those are the things that we are talking about when we do the recruitment. We need to make sure that we understand it's a place of honor. It's a place of honor to be an educator of our youngest scholars, to be there with their families, to help their families understand that mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, you were the first teachers. We're just here to support you so that they can navigate both worlds. It's a little bit more challenging for us because we have all this additional background, but we have to have the confidence we have to let them know to become confident in sharing and having a voice in how they're going to change education for their own children, for their grandchildren. And the thing that I take away from all of it when we're doing this, in tribal colleges, we're educating by our standards. What matters to us, not measured by other people's standards that we've always been told we're the people that cause the failure of the entire group. No, we have things that we can offer to you, but you never ask. So now that we have this opportunity, I think that's powerful. And sharing that story in recruitment efforts is, you know, that's the game changer. And I do have I want to go back to what you said about, you know, as you grow your own, you get these people and they come from maybe first year teacher and now you're an administrator, you know, doing that. We have a bus driver who is getting a bachelor's degree. And I'm like, whoa, you know, I'm so excited. You know, and I have one that is now a program center director who oversees other Head Starts. And I'm like, that is just so phenomenal. That's about growing your own because you build that confidence in them. And the recruitment is to let them know being an educator is special. It is a privilege. And so I think that message and helping them understand that's the good thing.
And I
Pam?
agree, for us too, word of mouth also, you know, when they see the center director is a graduate of the BA program, when their mentor teacher is a graduate of the AA program, when their friend who's doing it with them is a, you know, another parent in the program, that is how we get most of our people, is through word of mouth. We advertise, we go to job fairs, we do, you know, all sorts of things to get new staff in, which includes recruiting apprentices as well. And sometimes our funding limits who we can take because, you know, you have to be a parent of a child birth to 5. You have to live in this community in the unincorporated area of this county. You have to, you know, be on CalWorks, which is, you know, TANF. So, you know, we've got those pieces as well, but we also have enough additional funding to be able to filter in the people that really want to do it. I was going to say something else, but I kind of lost it here.
So let me do this. So I was a family childcare provider first, right? And then I became a childcare business owner, and now I support other childcare business owners. So is there a pipeline? Do people go through, you know, once we recruit them, we get them in the program, what happens next? Do they stay in teaching positions? Do they go and become FCCs? Do they open up their own early learning centers? I did hear you talk about seeing them as a director. Representation matters. So tell me how others can see themselves in family childcare, you know, in the family home or in the family childcare provider situation after they've been a part of the program.
I think some of the funding is, you know, it's hard for family childcare because a lot of our funding sources are paying people who are employees who have to have a mentor or somebody work with them. And so you have to create a different model for family childcare since they're all self-employed. And so California created a union of the family childcare employees. And so there's some opportunities out there now. And there's a number of family childcare networks that are participating in early educator apprenticeships throughout California. There's one in the Bay Area, there's a couple in LA. So they're starting to pop up now. And yes, we've had family childcare providers who started in family childcare take the classes and then go work in the centers because it's, you know, family childcare is a really hard job. It's really a hard job and it's a lot of hours. We're also talking to some family childcare providers about putting apprentices in their family childcare homes so they can mentor them. And I like that idea. It's a little bit new, it's a little bit different, and we'll see what happens with it. But the other thing that I was going to say earlier that I forgot is I wanted to talk about recruiting from high schools now and starting youth apprenticeships and youth programs and working with juniors and seniors primarily in high school. And I think back to when I started as a volunteer working with little kids when I was in high school. And I think a lot of us in the field start young. We're either babysitting siblings or family members or working with kids on the streets, basically. And then it sort of grows into like, oh, I kind of like hanging out with kids. So we're trying to give them, they graduate with 12 units from high school for free. They've got 12 extra units going ahead. And then can go on and get their AA and BA degrees in our other programs and have a full-time job by the time they graduate. They also have paid summer employment. And we're working with like our workforce development boards to pay them to work during the summer. So there's some funding for the salaries for them. So there's some exciting things happening in terms of both recruiting and, you know, looking at what's going to happen next.
Did you want to add to that, Dr. Bowman?
Yes, I would like to add to that. For us in our program with the TCU partnership under Office of Head Start, what we're doing is we're making sure that all of our participants, we have 118 now that are in the pipeline. And what they're required to do is fill out the Navajo Nation employment application so that they graduation for placement in a Head Start. And so we're doing that, but we're also making sure that we're supporting those teachers who want to go into other Head Start centers or childcare centers that serve predominantly Native American students, children. So we want to make sure that we open up all avenues for them and support them in that work. It's it's kind of difficult for us to try to go anywhere else to create a child care center on the reservation. Having a business license, that's a whole other nightmare, so we're not really venturing out into that right now, but it would be an interesting thought to be able to say, hey, it's economic development as well. So, we want to make sure that we have opportunities for our students who are in the pipeline. But our largest employer is the tribe, and that covers the states of Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. So we want to make sure that it's meaningful engagement with an employer.
Absolutely. So I want to say this again. I always speak from a place as a early learning center owner, is that one, family child care providers are essential, and because I was one, and they are small businesses as well as child care providers. We are small businesses, and parents have choice. They can choose to put their little people into a family child care provider home, or an FFN, or a child care based center. And so we need people in all of those fields. So apprenticeships, and that is what Grow Your Own is. You need to seek out what your community needs. These two ladies are talking about what they've done in their communities. The thing is, we need to assess what your community needs and then provide those types of supports to your community. So I appreciate what you guys are doing in your community. And so with that, how are you measuring impact in success in your Grow Your Own initiatives? Both in terms of numbers of participants who are entering the ECE workforce, and to the quality of the work with young children and the families that you guys are serving.
For us, I think the thing that helps me as we're starting to measure our success and the success of our students is that they are learning how to be educators through the lens of an Indigenous professional coursework that is designed by them, for them, and creating that opportunity for them to have voice. To me, when I saw success this past summer was looking at some of our students who we just told them, you're going to do a video and you're going to go find an elder. You're going to have to ask them what was education like and why is it important. And so we just threw it on them because we know that as teachers, that happens to us all the time. Our center director says, hey, by the way, I have this brilliant idea, go do this. And you have to scramble. We taught them. It was a teaching tool at the same time, but letting them imagine for themselves what it would be like. They came up with elders of videos. It was called Elders Voices. And they did all the work. They asked the questions. They designed it. I was just totally amazed. To me, that was success because now those videos are available to other learners who can look at it and say, hey, we might be able to use that kind of teaching. Maybe that's relevant for here. I mean, to see that in action, I was really impressed by the level of learning that they had reached, because they weren't afraid to ask questions. They weren't afraid to say, let's just try this. Let's see if it works. And taking away the lessons that they learned and how they can continue to incorporate those into their classroom. To me, that's the measure. The numbers, yes, that's there, but life happens, and you take what you get and you hang on to those that really are passionate about it, and you help them every which way possible to get across the finish line. And then you support them even after they graduate. When they're in the classroom, you go visit, say hi, take them something to eat, and say, I'm proud of you, because that shows them that we really did put our meaning behind what we were saying, that action in and of itself. But the standards that we get measured by need to be our own as defined by us.
Yeah, wouldn't that be lovely if money worked that way all the time too, that you could, create your own standards and do that. I mean, we create our own apprenticeship standards, but they're based on, national standards or state standards. and people have to reach a certain level of competency. So we can show that they've met that. We can do the numbers game and say it's numbers, but it truly is about individual stories and what people say about the changes in their lives and how transformative it's been, more than just for them as individuals and their pride and their self-esteem and the fact that they're getting good grades and they're finishing degrees. And we can look at all those numbers and say, wow, look at how great we're doing. But if one person benefits from it, is that enough? I mean, if you could change the course of someone's life and their family's life as a result of a program like this, for me, that's, more than enough. And that's kind of the amazing piece. We're being evaluated this year by UC Berkeley. So the Center for the Study of Childcare Employment is, hanging around, and they're surveying people, and now they're starting focus groups. So by fall, there should be some kind of report out that will tell our funders, what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I'm glad that they're not just looking at the numbers, but they're going to be talking to people and hearing their stories, which I think is, most important about this. But yeah, it's kind of amazing to see transformation in people's lives that impacts everybody. And if you haven't seen the videos from the Workforce Center, you have to look at them. They're amazing. And, even our video is great, but Dr. Bowman's is amazing. And the two people that are in the video, so one who was a success coordinator is now a manager. This happened all in the last couple weeks. And the person who was there, who is working as an apprentice and then just finished her AA and is going into a BA program in the fall, has just been hired as a success coordinator. So she's so excited to be able to work with people the way that she's been worked with over the last few years. So we're really excited about that.
So I love to hear that there's a pathway, right? So there are other things that people could do in ECE with the apprentice, but and you guys talked about the people, but tell me more. I want to follow up with my question about the children. How many children have you guys impacted? Do you have, numbers, or even if it's not numbers, but do you have the stories of the classrooms and the children that have been impacted by the apprenticeships that you guys are doing?
So, I want to talk about the lack of research on child outcomes as it relates to teacher, skills and qualifications. There's not a lot that we can say that links a particular training or a particular methodology to an outcome for a child. And if anybody says they've got it, send it my way, because I would love to see it. We know better teachers make better outcomes for children. We know better teachers make better relationships with parents. We know, I can see it when somebody has a BA degree and they've spent the last 2 years of their college careers writing reports and notes. Their written communication to parents, to staff, to each other is much higher level. I know that they've become much more reflective as teachers and know how to implement curriculum better and to fidelity. I know that they understand things at a different level when they've got higher level education going in. Do we have research to prove that a child's, desired results, test results are going to score higher as a result of this? I don't think we can, say that yet. But we know that kids do better. We know that parents do better once they've been there. And we know that this training impacts their parenting. That's one thing that we're really clear about. And we're assessing that now. We're doing some assessments on some of the parents that are in our program to determine where they came in and where they're at when they finish, and looking and seeing if the program is the thing that made the difference or what aspects of the program made the difference.
And I agree with Pam. We're so busy trying to get people through the pipeline that where is the time to do the actual research and to solidify that piece of it? It's important. So I wrote down on my little notes here, that's my next thing that I want to make sure that I get funded, is a research team to come in and really talk to Head Start, Navajo Head Start, Zuni Head Start, the communities, and start asking those questions. Did we make a difference? Does the style of teaching that your children get in your center now from our graduates, does it make a difference? And then also of the graduates, how do you feel things happened better in your life? And even if it's one person, it really isn't one person that gets through the pipeline and that is successful, because that one person influences a family unit that may be consisting of 20 people. you know, so they're modeling that for those 20 people that they could be educators too. So, you know, I think that we're on the right path. It's just resources, people resources, and that's on my to-do list. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that, Dr. Bowman. So we're going to do our last question, but I do want to say, and then we'll go back to the slides. But as you guys look to the future, what do you see as your scale of modeling up? What gives you hope? Why do you keep doing what you do in your Grow Your Own?
Well, for me, the advice I would give to others that want to have a Grow Your Own, first of all, I think you're going to have to believe that it's possible. You're going to have that confidence to map it out well. You know, I'm fortunate because I have those tenets that are embedded in me, and I'm in that pipeline where you map it out well so that you are able to offer the best programs for your students. And how do we help gather the necessary faculty to understand this is how the programs need to be delivered, and this is how we're going to support you. And that you have to identify the people who have a heart for all of this work, this incredible work that we do as educators. And everybody has to be on the same page. As you're developing your Grow Your Own, you invite all voices, you validate all voices, and that you try to make sure that you all look at what's in it for the students and the outcomes for communities and families, and how are our youngest scholars going to navigate the next 12 years of their lives, where they're in a system, an educational system that perhaps may not always honor who they are, but they will have the tools as little learners to navigate that system, and parents will be able to have the tools to support their student through the challenging times that will inevitably come. And looking at a common foundation, working and developing a Grow Your Own program with a strong foundation. For us as Navajo people, we always put prayer into all of it. We have ceremony over it. This is what we want to have happen. And so we sit in the hogan and we talk about it. This is how we want it to happen. This is the outcome. And we ask, you know, the powers that be to watch over and guide our thinking of the people who are leading the program, the people who are in the program, and the people who will benefit from the program. So it's all about your context, your individual context from whatever community you're from, your community's context, how they envision and have a relationship with education. And you need to look at all different kinds of programs, Grow Your Own programs, and take the best out of all of them. I'm also fortunate with the partners who are in the cohort 1 of the TCU partnership. Here, and I share stories and they take from that. And so we learn from one another. And I often look at my colleagues in the TCU partnership to be that support for the leaders trying to make the difference. And we just have to be intentional. Pick the useful lessons of others and make sure that it benefits your community. You know, never forget that. You can't just say, I want to do this. You may want to do it, but whose purpose are you serving? So I think that's, you know, to end this, Rochelle, you asked the question, why do I do this? I try to escape education. It always drags me back. And so I know that that is what the Creator gifted me to do, to be here in this place, in this space as an educator. So I tell my teachers, I'll move the mountains for you. You tell me what they are, and I'll figure out a way to get around them, over them, under them, or just kick them out of the way, because you will be successful. I want that for you, and you want it. And so let's just get it done. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
I'm going to take a little different tactic here, but I'm going to quote you first, and it's really honor the voice of the people. I mean, thank you for keep bringing that up, because it's the same in every community we work in. When you're working in underrepresented communities and people don't listen, it's hard. And I love that your heart is in your work. And Thank you. What I'm going to say is policies need to change at the federal and state level. You know, if this work is going to continue and you don't have people with the talent and the gifts, and I'm thinking like of you, Dr. Bowman, you must be an amazing teacher, but if you're spending all your time hustling for dollars to make your programs do what you need them to do, it's an energy drain, and it needs to be made easier. There is lots of money out there at the federal and state level, and it is hard to access, and it's not made that much easier. One of the big things, and I'll just call it out, is WIOA money, Workforce Investment Opportunity Act. WIOA is targeted for low-income communities, but it's all based on individual. And if we're doing a cohort group, then we have to figure out how to get a cohort where everybody qualifies and each kid is this, or each adult is this, or your parents on TANF, or this one's on that, and you must be homeless, you must be this. It's too hard and it's too siloed. Somebody at a higher level in this universe needs to make it easier for people like us that want to run the programs and do the work at the, you know, at the street level, basically, to have easier access to this. California's done a little bit in terms of they've got California Apprenticeship Initiative grants and some other things going on, but it's still like, as people hear more and more about it, it gets more and more competitive to get those dollars. And like you said, you're all fighting for the same $10, $100, $1 million, whatever you can get. So I'd love to see policy changes happen. I think we still have to keep the heart and listen to the stories of the people in order to keep these programs successful. We can't mechanize it to a point that we forget that part of it. We really need to remember what people need to be in the workplace and to work with kids. And you know, we change the world one person at a time. That's all we can do. You know, thank you for giving us this opportunity to stand on our soapboxes and share what we're doing.
So I agree. This was amazing. So let me just say, again, applaud to you two. Thank you so much, Dr. Bowman, and to Pam for what you guys are doing in your community. I agree with both of you guys, the fact of that this is hard work. So you have to have the heart in order to take the bumps and the bruises and the lack of funding and all the other things that it takes for us to do this every day, to see the gaps in your community and want to be able to do what you do to grow your own. Again, there's no economy without early care and education. So all of the legislators, all of the people, they need to know that we, for dollar, they get a return, a higher return on their investment when they invest in early care and education. So we're going to go back. So again, thank you. A round of applause for all that you're doing. We have more. So we will continue the Grow Your Own series. So coming up April 17th and April 24th, we will have two more other presenters coming up. Please make sure you scan the QR code. Keep up with what is going on in your emails. And we want to thank you for registering on there. Next slide. Thank you. We want to hear from you. Use hashtag Grow Your Own. Share your stories, experiences on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter. To your point, there's nothing like the lived experience. Please, Susan put on there, we're going to collate all of that information. There are amazing things that you guys are doing in your community, and we want to know about it. We want to be able to amplify those things. So please share your experiences, share what you're doing in your communities. So again, thank you for spending this time with us. Thank you to you two for sharing your Grow Your Own, and we hope to have more around the country. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for being here. And we also want to thank Bill. Thank you. We can go to the next. The National Early Care and Education Workforce Center. Here are the information to keep in contact with us or with them. And we look forward to the next time that you're with us.